Years before I even started homeschooling, I got into an argument with a family member who was also a teacher about homeschooling. And she said something to me that I still remember. She said, "Why do you feel you have to prove things to me if you're confident it's the right approach?" Touché. I didn't have a great answer then. Decades later, I do. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. I'm Teresa, and welcome back to the Homeschool Life Coach channel. This is stop number 3 in the 7-day Confident Homeschool Roadmap. And if you are new to homeschooling or even just thinking about it, and you're already bracing for the questions, the raised eyebrows, the well-meaning relatives, and the not-so-well-meaning comments, this one's for you. Today, we're talking about navigating skepticism and criticism from the people in your life, with grace, with confidence, and occasionally with a very polite smile, while internally composing a 3-point persuasive essay. We'll get to that. So here's the thing I want to begin with. Here is the belief or the lie that makes this whole thing really hard. The belief is that we can actually get everyone on board. That if you just explain things the right way, or find the right words, present enough evidence, everyone who matters to you will eventually come around. That they will see things the way you see them. And they just don't. They might not. And believing otherwise won't help you. It is jarring when we discover that someone we always thought really got us, really understood us, is voting differently, or vaccinating, or not vaccinating, or homeschooling, or private schooling, or public schooling. We can choose to let those differences get in the way of our possibility for connection. And even if we don't choose that, but someone else does, it can feel gut-punching, most definitely disappointing and sad. And we might grieve the loss of that connection. 100% honor and acknowledge your loss in that. I genuinely get you. I am not just talking to hear myself speak here. I have lived this. There is a family member I really wanted in my corner on this. I kept hoping she would come around, but she had one perspective, and it was, in her words, the right one, and it wasn't mine. And that door stayed closed, and it hurt. So I'm not dismissing that grief. You might genuinely grieve the loss of a connection you hoped for. That's real. And at the same time, also true, is that spending your energy trying to convince people who are not listening is costing you. So let's talk about what to do instead. Because here's what I really want you to hear. Your goal, my goal, the goal, is to live in integrity and alignment. And I know that can sound like something you just read on a wellness poster. So let me tell you what I actually mean by that. I often speak on the Confident Homeschool Mom podcast about living aligned from the inside out. When you are not living from integrity and alignment, when you are making choices, living out choices based on what other people think, or shrinking from choices because you're afraid of how they will land, it's you that absorbs that. You feel frustrated. You feel like you are not living an intentional life that you're proud of. It might take you a while to understand that, but listening outward, asking what do others think instead of asking what do you think, will always backfire. We know that deeply, but it's hard to get clear on what do we actually think, or how do I coexist when I don't see things the same way as some of the important people in my life. But when you don't train yourself to act from integrity, to listen within, to live aligned from the inside out, you always feel the need to prove yourself. That's the answer I didn't have from my family member years ago. I wasn't there yet. I couldn't have declared that. In my early years of homeschooling, when someone questioned my choice, and I mean like a stranger, like a guy in the produce aisle who told me to just get the kids in school, that actually happened, I felt defensive when that happened. I knew better than to say something in that moment, especially in front of my kids. I knew a random stranger was irrelevant to my life choices, but I felt it. And in my head, I wrote that 3-point persuasive essay. And I did that every single time I heard someone comment, "Are you really going to still homeschool them in high school? Or is your mom going to homeschool you all the way through?" You know what my daughter actually said when somebody asked her that? She said, "I don't think she's going to homeschool me in college." No, no, indeed. No, I did not. But in my head, I wrote that 3-point persuasive essay. And eventually, those essays found a better home, my website, capturingthecharmedlife.com. And now you are the recipient of everything I've published there since. You're welcome. But here is what I've also lived, and this is the other side of it. I have lived owning what I really believe, allowing myself to change my mind at times, and most importantly, living out of integrity and alignment. And I am so grateful that I did, for a few reasons. One is because you are not constantly second-guessing, wondering if you're doing things wrong, wondering if they're wrong, perseverating on their unkindness or reacting in unkindness. And the second thing is because it is the most loving and true thing you can do for yourself and for the people around you, to live in integrity and alignment. So here's what gets lighter when you let go of the belief that you need everyone's approval. You stop writing persuasive essays in your head. You stop trying to make people wrong so you can feel right. You stop needing them to see things the way you see them, because you are clear on what you see. And when you're clear in your own convictions, you actually become more curious about other people's perspectives. You don't feel threatened by them. You're not as defensive. You're just curious because you're not preoccupied with protecting yourself anymore. You will become clearer in your own intentions. You'll be more willing to listen to other people's perspectives. You won't feel as threatened or uncomfortable with others' opinions. You just won't be as preoccupied with them. Now, I got to include a little Brené Brown in this conversation, right? This conversation aligns perfectly with the discussion of shame and boundaries. Brené Brown says that the most boundaried person is the most compassionate person. And I think about that in this context because when you hope to be understood by someone, first assess, does this person have solid enough boundaries to hold your differing opinion and confidently express theirs without steamrolling you? If they don't, why even try? I know my own answer to that question. We know that these people that we want to have as supports for us, they mean something to us. And we presume that they should be close because they are a sister, a brother, a cousin, a longtime friend, an aunt. And also assess how they've already shown up for you. If they're not really listening, you need to accept the reality of the relationship that you have with them. That isn't giving up. That's just clarity. Confidence isn't confidence when it's reactive and defensive. Confidence is yours when you live your life and mind your own business. Henry David Thoreau wrote, "If a man does not keep pace with his companions, perhaps it is because he hears a different drummer. Let him step to the music which he hears." Friend, you are stepping to your own music. That is not a problem to be fixed. That is the whole point of this homeschool journey. Now, practically, because I also want this to be practical for you, can you have a conversation with a respectful family member? Absolutely. But first consider that they very well may be just curious about your choice. It may not be a critical conversation at all. They might be as unaware of the options as anyone else in the world. Groupthink influences generations. Everyone else has been doing this conventional school thing for a long time, long enough to have living members of families actually share stories about it. Everyone else is doing it. So why don't you want to do it? They just don't get it yet. You need to get why. They might not get why yet. Also, they might feel afraid, not for themselves, but for your kids, because they love your kids and they don't yet understand how what you're suggesting is going to benefit them. Maybe they didn't trust themselves enough to step outside of conventional choices for themselves. So they're confused about why you are willing to do that. Maybe there's a little envy in there. Or maybe they're just genuinely curious and don't know how to ask in a really savvy way. What we do know for sure is that that is for them to figure out. If they love your kids and they love you, here is all you need. You can say something like, here's what I've learned about this choice and what I want you to know. That's it. Just answer their questions directly. You don't owe anyone a dissertation. You owe them, if you choose, a calm, kind, honest response, and then you get to go home. My kids and I were in a grocery store once, and a clerk asked her what grade she was in. And my daughter looked at me. That doesn't usually happen with school kids, right? But my daughter looked at me because she didn't actually know. We didn't really do grades like that. And I looked back at her, and we just had a little moment. And you know what? That was fine. It was like, according to the conventional world, it's kind of weird, but it was a funny story and nobody was harmed. I'm sure that the clerk thought it was odd, but she moved on. Life continued. Now, the family member who quizzes your kids on times tables and centrifugal force or algebraic equations, or the exact year that Sir Isaac Newton discovered gravity by watching an apple fall on his head, which some days feels really relatable to this channel. Anyways, just kindly ask them to direct their questions to you. Just kidding. No, the year. I can't explain centrifugal force, though. A couple of my kids definitely can. If your kid nails the apple gravity thing off the top of their head, let them answer and let them have the moment and then casually mention it at every family dinner for the next 4 or 5 years. You've earned it. Now, I also want you to hear that this discussion can represent many, many things, not just skepticism about your homeschool choice. It can represent your perspective on any and many things in your life. Any place you are waiting for permission, that is not coming. But as to homeschooling specifically, go back to stop number 2 about knowing your why. Make sure you are clear, aligned, and acting with integrity about why you're doing what you're doing. And when you know that you are, then determine to walk confidently in the direction that is yours. Step to your music. Practice it, because it really is a practice. And I promise you, you will get there. Just a few years ago, I'm at barbecue for my husband's work, and I was introduced to a new or prospective homeschool mom. She had a preschooler, and she was considering her schooling options. And I was explaining to her how it would be important for her to deschool before she really got started homeschooling. And I could remember having this conversation with her. She's really curious. She'd heard about that word before. She knew it meant releasing the unhelpful school mindsets that we have about an education and learning. In fact, side note, I have the Deschool Breakthrough Workshop on Friday, so I will actually be doing that with moms. And if you're interested, check the link below. But I spoke about deschooling, and I can remember the feeling of someone watching or over listening. You know that feeling when you know that somebody's paying attention. I realized later somebody was, and I asked about who that person was. And I learned that they were an administrator to a local school. And I could just feel the kind of like, what is she even talking about? Deschooling and coming away from unhelpful schooled mindsets and all the things I spoke to, which I would speak to you about in Aligned Homeschool Reset session if you're joining me. But that blew that person's mind. And you know what? I get it. It's weird. It's different. It's not weird. It's different. And yet, guess what? I don't care, because I know that this approach is so useful for kids, for purpose. I don't care anymore. I know that it's so useful to live aligned from the inside out, to give your kids the opportunity to learn in their own way, on their own terms, and create this beautiful homeschool life for them and, turns out, for you. So you just have to practice. I have found that living from integrity and alignment is the sanest, most loving, most true thing I can do for myself and the people around me, then I won't be second guessing. I won't be perseverating on other people's unkindnesses. I won't be reacting in unkindness. Just clarity. So grateful for that clarity and learning to live it out. It's a beautiful thing. It means choosing to home educate even when skepticism plagues your family or your community. So be it. You will become clearer. You will become more curious, and you will become less threatened, and you will be so glad you did. If this video resonated with you, drop it in the comments. What is the hardest part of navigating skepticism in your own life right now? What assumption are you carrying that maybe, just maybe, you're finally ready to let go of? I would genuinely love to hear. And if you're just getting started, this video is part of the 7-day Confident Homeschool Roadmap, which was made for you. You'll find the link below. Now, if you're watching this thinking, Teresa, this is not my first year. I am well past my first year, and I am beyond frustrated with this storyline in my life, then I want you to know there is a next step for you too. You can book a free aligned homeschool reset session with me. The link is below. We will get you clear, get you out of the spin cycle, that get you back to the version of the most true and aligned you so that you can feel like you're living intentionally. I'll see you at stop number 4 next week.